Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. Boy, the franchise market is a lot more crowded and competitive than it was when Harry Potter first started. Case in point being that they were pushed out of the headlines with the announcement of their spin-off on Friday, just one day later when Lionsgate and Hunger Games fired back with the announcement that Julianne Moore will be playing Alma Coin in the Mockingjay Parts 1 and 2 films. This was, of course, rumored for a long time, but it was officially confirmed on Friday. And it's very interesting casting. First of all, because it's such a crucial character in the stories. And it's hard for us to discuss it without having massive spoilers. So just be aware that Julianne Moore, her character, is very important to the Hunger Games mythos and Katniss' story. The second thing that's interesting about it is that it's so similar, in my opinion, to the casting of Kate Winslet in a very similar role in Divergent. Very similar actresses with a very similar demeanor and reputation in the industry. And the last thing that these two movies need, Divergent and Hunger Games, is more ways to be alike. But they have another one now. Although I guess, casting Alma Coin, it's just the character itself that's similar. So I'm not sure who would be a better Alma Coin. I think a lot of fans seem happy with this casting, so there's no reason to speculate who would have been a better replacement. However, I would say that I was looking into Alma Coin, and her physical description was so different than Julianne Moore. Alma Coin is described as having gray hair, like a sheen of gray hair, and washed out eyes that are also gray. And I think the description is almost, that Suzanne Collins uses, is like that they're almost like the color is washed out of them. And it's funny because Julianne Moore has such a colorful physical appearance. So I'm wondering if they're going to use some, special effects and just maybe they can do it all with just makeup effects to create this look. And I think that if it's a stylized look, it could be very interesting. I would like to see that actually, and that would be a stark contrast to the, being devoid of color would be an interesting contrast to the very colorful characters coming out of the Capitol. So we could have some interesting visual effects going on here, which are always welcome. And I'm just excited for the Hunger Games to continue because I like the new talent behind the camera. I think the world building looks much better as we've already discussed. So I'm eager for them to go in a more sophisticated, deeper direction. So that's the first story of the day. The second is that the Mummy franchise looks like it's going to be revived over at Universal. And the interesting thing is that they're going to put a horror twist on it. Horror films are doing very well, obviously. So now Universal is going to see if they can kind of make a big budget horror franchise. And I think that The Mummy is an excellent choice for that. It started out in Hollywood as a horror film. They kind of turned it into action adventure with Brendan Fraser, which I have no complaints about. I loved the Mummy movies. I thought they were really a lot of fun. I liked, not only did I enjoy the movies themselves, but I remember going to them when they opened and having such a fun experience in the theater. They were really a big event. So, I'd be game to reinvent them. And I like that the fact that they're reinventing them in a different way. They're not just like, let's make more with a new actor, but it's basically the same thing. They're going to, instead of having like the kind of like 40s Indiana Jones-ish kind of vibe that they had for the Brendan Fraser ones, and go in a horror direction. And as I said, anyone who's ridden the great movie ride down at Disney Hollywood Studios, is what they're calling it these days, knows that movies like the Mummy and stuff like that were originally horror films in Tinseltown. So I think it's an exciting new direction to take the franchise in. And I'm also glad that they seem to have a different director in mind. Len Wiseman was originally going to do it. He did Underworld, and I think he's too similar to the original Mummy films. Well, not the original, but the franchise with Brendan Fraser. I think that's too similar a choice. I'm much more excited that they're going with, hold on, I wrote it down because it's another difficult to pronounce name. Why does Hollywood do it to me? Andres Muschietti. And he is the director of Mama, that Guillermo del Toro produced. So I think he's a fantastic choice to go into this franchise. And I like the idea of, another low-budget director getting a chance to move into the big leagues. Of course, Mama was made for very little money, I think around $15 million or so, and then it came in at like $174 million or something. So huge return. It's going to be harder to have that level of return on an expensive film like The Mummy, but maybe they could do it a little bit low budget if they don't have to have the huge set pieces that Brendan Fraser's films did. So that's the second story. I'm excited about that. I like it. I think it's a good twist. It's a change for a reason. And if you're going to reboot something or reimagine something, you should legitimately reimagine it. So the third story, I reported on the Paddington movie a while ago, the Paddington Bear movie that they're making. I think it's great that David Heyman is doing it. He, of course, produced the Harry Potter movies. So it's great to see him focusing on another famous British book. This time, I guess Harry Potter. I don't know if I would consider Harry Potter a children's book. Paddington Bear has huge crossover appeal as well. Adults like it. It has a very strong place in the heart of a lot of people. But new developments have come out, and I'm not really very happy with the direction that the new film seems to be going in. First of all, I thought Hugh Laurie was a great choice to voice the bear, but instead Colin Firth is going to voice Paddington Bear. Now, Colin Firth is a great guy. He's a very talented actor. He deserves his Oscar. But when someone says, who should voice this cute stuffed character, this cute little bear fuzzy character, Colin Firth doesn't really come to mind. I wouldn't really say that Colin Firth is lovable and huggable. Maybe he was in his Mr. Darcy days, but I don't know. I don't know if I really think that's a good choice. I would have rather gone maybe with an unknown even. And of course, my idea, which I floated out there that some of you didn't like, was that since he comes from Peru, Paddington Bear maybe should have a South American accent. But I was the only one, apparently, who was into that. But the other thing that really bothers me is that Nicole Kidman has been cast as the villain, and she's going to play a taxidermist out for revenge. Now, I don't know if you know what a taxidermist is. For those of you who don't know, I will save you the trip to another browser window on your computer. It is someone who likes to stuff dead animals and mount them on walls or, on exhibit. And I don't really think I want that element involved in my Paddington Bear movie. I think that's a really creepy direction to go in. I mean, I do trust David Heyman, but I'm not into this, and I think it's an element that I don't think needs to be introduced to a children's film or to Paddington Bear. I don't think it's a good fit, and just really kind of creepy. I don't like the idea of you. I mean, we're going to have to show some of the things that she stuffed, obviously, if she's a taxidermist. So the idea of Paddington Bear having to deal with that is disturbing. All right, so those are the 3 movie stories of the day. Now time for the viewer question. This is from Ryan Jackson, and he says, here's a question for you, Grace. Thank you. Both Vertigo and Image Comics have had few movie adaptations of their comics. Well, of course, most notably, Walking Dead is an adaptation from Image. And it says, some amazing, some not so amazing, like he says, Spawn. And then, which comic would you like to see developed into the next movie from either of these line of publishers? Now, I think that's a great question. First of all, I'd have to say that I think for most comic book titles, I think the adaptation is better to television because comic book stories go on for so long and they are to some degree episodic. That I think they just translate better usually to television. Walking Dead, case in point. But for instance, they've been talking for a long time about making a Y the Last Man movie. I think Y the Last Man will work much better as a television show. And I also think that this saga that's out right now, which is just really rocking it from Image, would also be better as a television show. Although, to hear Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples tell it, they have no interest in it becoming a property on any size screen. But I don't know about that. I think that would, I don't know. I think it could be done. I think it would be interesting, especially with its sci-fi and fantasy elements. But at the same time, very low-budget sci-fi fantasy elements in the Saga comic, so it's great for a TV budget. Not a network TV budget, by the way. I know some people like Once Upon a Time, but every time I see a preview for that show, I'm like, the special effects look so cheap and cheesy, I just can't get past it. It's very frustrating. I'd rather less is more, like on Game of Thrones, and they don't show the dragons very much, but when they do, they look almost movie level. But a film that I think would be good, I think that Fables. I know that Fables is finally aggressively being developed, maybe perhaps as a feature. I think it's David Heyman. I just thought of it now, so it's off the cuff. But I would really think that I would love to see Fables go into the movie universe because I think it has such big set pieces. Most notably, the war that is really the first whole part of the story. I think that would be really great to show, and I think it could have a Lord of the Rings type quality to it. So I would be very excited about a Fables movie. So that's what I'd like to see transition. So how about you guys? Are there any comics that you'd like to see on a big screen or the small screen? And also, why do you choose the screen size that you do? Why do you think X comic would be better on for a television show or for a movie? So write your thoughts down below about that and all today's 3 top stories. And I hope you'll let me know what you'd like to see covered tomorrow and any other questions you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.